Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to the 6:30 edition of Prime News on My Media Prime Live from Douala, the country's economic capital. My name is Genda Peldrin Blanche King. We begin the news this evening from the littoral region. Victims of the floods that hit Douala on Friday, August 21, 2020 have received material support from the government of Cameroon. Minister of Territorial Administration, Minister Paul Atanganji, handed the materials yesterday to the victims on the instructions of the head of state. His Excellency President Paul Biya Kingsley completes this report in the following story.
Accompanied by Governor Diodene Ivahadi Boa and other top administrative and security officials of the region, Minister Paul Atanganji's first stop was in Edeya, where he extended President Biya's message of hope to the victims of the August 21 floods.
Immediately when the information was sent to the head of state that Edeya was in a difficult situation, he asked me that I should go and assist the local population. You know, it's an international recommendation that in times of catastrophe, the first thing is to do is to give assistance and relief to the population. And that's why we have come to not only to give this relief to the population from the head of state, but to make an evaluation of the situation.
While in the nation's economic capital, Douala, Minister Paul Atanganji held a top security meeting with the État-Major of the region.
I want to thank the governor of the region who was very proactive to manage the situation and held a crisis meeting where an evaluation was made. I want to thank the senior decisional officer and the mayor of the Douala City Council who have been taking some measures on the field to see how the population can be assisted.
Paul Atanganji later visited some areas that were hit by the recent floods in Douala 5 and 3 municipalities before proceeding to the different venues where victims had gathered to receive President Biya's relief materials.
I want the local population to collaborate with the local administrative authorities, with your mayors, and with all the stakeholders, so that we can avoid what we saw the other day.
To some of the victims, it is a feeling of satisfaction.
Nous avons eu beaucoup de choses ici à la mairie de Douala 3e. Nous avons eu des couvertures, des matelas, les huiles, les savons. On remercie grandement le gouvernement.
Nous sommes vraiment très émus. Forte pluie qui nous a vraiment stressés. Tout ce qu'on vient de nous donner là. Nous sommes contents.
The minister is visiting Sancho in the West region this 25th day of August 2020.
After floods hit some neighborhoods in Douala, the littoral region, the main road leading to the Douala International Airport collapsed yesterday, making circulation temporarily paralyzed. Details with Audrey Zatsa.
The collapse of the road leading to the Douala International Airport is as a result of the heavy rainfall that flooded the economic capital, Douala, a few days ago. It is the main access road leading to the Douala International Airport and is on the west entrance into the city. The users of this road coming from Bonaberi, Aqua, Bonanjo, going towards the airport will now be obliged to use the division linking them to the east entrance into the city, as the road has been barred. It is to be noted that the recent floods have not only adversely affected the well-being of the population in Douala, as the Sancho Chang road equally crumbled the day before, which led to the disruptions on this section of the road. To avoid ending up with a tragedy, the governor of the West region, Awa Fonkang Augustine, released a note for the users of this section of the road, recommending them to avoid the Bamongum Chang, Sancho Melong crossroads until further notice.
Parents of a 10-year-old girl who was locked up and abused for over 6 months have been arrested by security elements of the Nkomo Gendarmerie Brigade in Yaoundé. Her parents are accused of allegedly abusing the girl, accusing her of being possessed, as Fonquinta tells us in the following report.
Thursday, August 20, 2020, images of a 10-year-old girl Yahweh surfaced on social media with reports of her being allegedly locked up and tortured for over 6 months by her parents, accusing her of being demon-possessed. The unfortunate incident, which sparked reactions on social media, occurred in Como, a locality in the nation's political capital. Recent updates to the story has revealed that parents of the 10-year-old girl, Mr. and Mrs. Ekani, have been arrested by elements of the Nkomo Gendarmerie Brigade for allegedly torturing their daughter, whom they accused of being demon-possessed. It should be recalled that the girl was rescued from the hands of her parents after neighbors alerted gendarmes of what they describe as regular torture of the 10-year-old girl. Informed of the incident, the Social Affairs Ministry got her admitted to a medical facility where she is currently receiving medical care. Following the incident in Yaoundé, some parents have strongly condemned the act as they hold there is no excuse for torturing a child.
Parce que c'est que les témoins, je ne vois pas qu'ils sont capables de garder le corps pendant 5 ans. Elles avaient l'espoir que ça peut guérir un jour, qu'il peut revenir sur terre. Non. Mais, à ce que je sache, on ne doit pas torturer un enfant parce qu'il est sorcier. Bon, si ton enfant est sorcier, tu as besoin de que ça vient de quelque part.
Her abuse saw reactions from Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph John Guti, who condemned all forms of violence, especially against women and children.
3 persons have been confirmed dead in Mai 4 Limbe 1 subdivision after consuming a poisonous substance mistakenly poured into food, as Kmer Honore Mbom tells us from Limbe.
The population of Quarter 4 in Mile 4 Bunandikumbu in Limbe 1 subdivision is yet to recover from the tragic death of 3 persons whose names we have as Miss Amy Pauline, 40 years old, Epie Emile, 17 years old, and Miracle Kmer, 2 years old, after consuming beans mixed with a poisonous substance commonly called mokap. Eyewitnesses have it that the family prepared beans and cassava on Saturday, August the 22nd. The family ate lunch with no problem, and when evening came, one of the children by name Ikomi Lois was sent to prepare rice and heat the beans for supper since the cassava was finished. While heating the beans, mokap from the counter over the gas fell on the cover lid. Ikomi Lois reported the incident to her mother, who instructed her to carefully gather the mokap and place it back on the counter while discarding the rest. In the process of doing that in the dark, as there was no light in Mile 4, some of the poisonous substance fell in the beans pot. The mother and 7 other children ate the food, and in less than 30 minutes, she started complaining of heavy legs, while the other 6 children complained of stomach pains. Ikomi Lois, who hid the food, did not eat it, since she earlier complained during the day that her mother did not prepare the beans well. The victims were rushed to the Presbyterian Health Clinic in Down Beach, but before they got there, Amy Pauline and Miracle Ikomi had given up the ghost. They were later transferred to the Limbe Regional Hospital, where they were confirmed dead. After seeing her mother and siblings giving up the ghost, little Ikomi Lois recalled the incident of the mokap that fell on top of the cover lid and told neighbors about the incident. The other 5 children were quickly given red oil to drink, which sustained them, but Epie Emile, 17 years old, refused drinking the red oil that he did not eat the food. His refusal to drink the red oil led to his death as he joined Amy Pauline and little Kmer Miracle at the Limbe Regional Hospital mortuary.
I had made she called earlier that said those the remaining one, nobody should touch it. If she could say the other children have consumed the residual part of the food. So now, after her death, they brought the small one at the age of 2 years. That one happened to die also. So another boy at the age of 17 years, still my son, happened to die. So what's happening?
By press time, the 5 survivors were at the Limbe Regional Hospital responding to treatment, while Ikomi Lois was at the Limbe Center Police Station under questioning. It should be noted that this is not the first time such a horrible incident is happening in Limbe, as years behind, the same mokap almost wiped out a family in Animals Farms, Limbe.
The physical execution rate of public investments budget for FACO division stands at 34.1%, while the physical execution rate of administrative projects stands at 28.46%. This was disclosed by the chairperson of the division follow-up meeting during the second quarter follow-up meeting for the realization of public investments project for Fako Honore reports.
The chairperson of the Divisional Follow-Up Committee for Public Investment Budget in Fako, Honorable Etombi Ikombe Gladys, has called on all divisional delegates to ensure that projects are strictly supervised for the effective implementation. The chairperson was speaking during the second quarter follow-up meeting of the execution of public investment budget in Fako for the 2020 financial year. Opening the session, the chairperson said that the physical execution of public investment budget stands at 34.01% as against last year's same time, which stood at 16.35%. According to the chairperson, the figure shows a remarkable increase as compared to the first quarter follow-up meeting held some 1 month ago, which stood at 0% realization. She, however, urged stakeholders to continue to work harder in order not for Fako to lose the credits allocated to the division with the provision of social amenities and improvement of the daily lives of the population, the main objective of the public investment budget. Going by the mayor of Lime 3 Council, Seke Djibouti Luma, mayors are being accused wrongly of slowing down the realization level of projects within their competence. He reiterated that mayors do not award projects single-handedly as they work with other members of the tenders board. He, however, blamed the strict administrative bottlenecks in some ministries as the main factor interfering with the smooth execution of public investment budget projects nationwide.
It was awarded in Yaoundé. The mayor of Lime 3 has nothing to do with that contract. In no place in that contract is the mayor of Lime 3 mentioned. When they started, we saw the way they were starting, we started writing letters again because we saw that they did not have the will to execute that contract.
Adding his voice to that of the mayor, Chief Samuel Epopa of Dikolo Village beckoned on the chairperson of the Divisional Follow-Up Committee to use her legislative mandate to knock at the doors of some ministries to decry the misappropriation of credits meant for the realization of public investment budgets projects in Fako division.
And come and tell me, he says, go and show you, you want people to go and show you the bridge. You were awarded the contract at the level of the women. We were not there to know which bridge was awarded to you. At times they do no work at all. And they go back to their windows and they are there. This is what we are complaining. And all this boils down to the fact that we are reporting this matter to you, our representatives, there in your windows, the parliamentarians and the senators. We should follow up our ministries who do this mess, that when they are doing this, they should connect us, who are the beneficiaries of this contract, to know that this contract has been awarded in your area and these are the specificities of this contract so that we can follow up.
The meeting brought together administrative authorities, mayors, civil society organizations, traditional rulers, public fund managers, beneficiaries, as well as a cross-section of community representatives.
Stakeholders drawn from all 10 regions of the country met in Boya recently to discuss possible solutions to the ongoing Anglophone crisis. The meeting, organized by the Human Rights Defenders Network in Central Africa, REDAC, addressed a number of issues. Details with Crise Okoye.
As the Anglophone crisis continues to metamorphose, many have painful stories to narrate.
1 year in shooting, around 7:30 all will come up our house to run. Enter push to my picking them all will be lost. The group will be picking them run go enter. I be succeed for see 2 of them. I don't even know sign of money. My sister did. The born our village, born all our things and all chicken them. We remember one close to see.
I helped my brother who left, my dad and my mom. Up to today, I don't even know where they are. I met some group of people who were also migrating, and the one lady told us that she knew someone actually help us
we are here, and that's how we found ourselves here.
The continuous hardship and pains is what has prompted this meeting, grouping together stakeholders from different communities across the 10 regions of Cameroon. The purpose of this inter-community dialogue for peace and reconciliation organized by the Human Rights Defenders Network in Central Africa is to exchange ideas and jointly seek solutions to the present stalemate.
Since now we don't have a solution really, and we need now to join the communities to work together, to talk together. And communities is not only Northwest and Southwest. We want to bring all the communities in Cameroon.
Several issues were identified as a cause for the fueling Anglophone crisis.
Problems in this country are caused by politicians generally. For example, the Southwest, Northwest, the Continent, the Sardinard, the Bangladesh, and the Metis, and the rest. We need to, in our various communities, try to look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is the state. If all of us consider this Cameroon as a property, all of us appropriate it, we will not be looking at it from our smaller dimensions. There is a need for reconciliation in this country.
Which we are facing here today in the 2 English regions, we know how it started, and again we can know how to stop it. So we should go back and talk to our children, those concerned.
While these activities is being carried out in other regions, stakeholders were enjoined to be vectors of peace and reconciliation in their respective communities.
You're on to Prime News on My Media Prime. We now visit the reactions of some members of the ruling CPDM party following Kamto's recent threat promise. He threatens to pull Cameroonians into the streets should regional elections be organized by the head of state without a solution to the ongoing Anglophone crisis. Gladys Bomotongina compiled the following.
La réaction des partisans du RDPC, Rassemblement démocratique du peuple camerounais, suite à une autre récidive de mise en garde adressée par Maurice Kamto, président du mouvement pour la renaissance du Cameroun MRC hier, à son excellence Paul Biya, président de la République du Cameroun, a été comme toujours très prompte et visant à calmer l'opinion publique. En effet, Grégoire Auna a précisé ce même jour que le peuple camerounais, fier de sa maturité et de sa culture démocratique, ne cédera pas aux sérénades de Maurice Kamto. Tout ceci laissant certains habitants de Douala dans diverses opinions.
Normalement, avant les élections présidentielles, il y avait des conflits dans le Nord-Ouest, mais il est allé aux élections présidentielles. Mais pourquoi donc il a refusé d'aller aux élections législatives? Donc ça veut dire ceux qui continuent à même lancer. Bien sûr, il a des bonnes idées, mais quelque part, il est un peu.
Nous aussi, les citoyens, nous avons besoin d'une sécurité parfaite. Ceci pour être réaliste, la sécurité.
Pour d'autres, il ne serait question que d'une bataille entre grands.
Il y a beaucoup de problèmes. Tous ont cherché une solution. Ça arrive à savoir comment gérer. Sinon, on accepte tout ce qu'ils vont dire. Sur lequel côté il n'y a pas de problème. Je veux que tout ça aille normalement. Ça entre les gros poissons. Donc ça les regarde.
Le plus important reste à la paix et à la sécurité des Camerounais.
Reverend pastors and session members of the Presbyterian Church in Tamulung, Bamenda, have dedicated special prayers to the Abbey Specialist Medical Foundation Clinic, Bamenda, hoping for better working days ahead. Charles Kebwa reports from the northwest region of the country.
Reverend pastors and session members of PC in Tamulung, Sunday 23rd August at the Abbey Foundation Clinic, Bamenda, prayed and commit the medical facility into God's care.
I rely very much on God's providence and intervention, and I happen to have known Dr. Tebi far long ago. I know he's a God-fearing servant, and I know with God's leadership, this place will progress from strength to strength. I only continue to commit him and his labor here
into God's hands.
Before shown round the facilities of the clinic, the Abbey Specialist Medical Foundation, now at their new site at former Libyan Hotel Bamenda.
We were lucky to have former Libyan Hotel that we had to transform over 2 years, got it equipped so that where we started could be moved on to Libyan. And as somebody who is so rooted in God, I thought we could not start without getting the men of God to come and link us, bless the place.
Transformed with medical equipment to serve humanity as a redemption ground rooted in God, where doctors will treat but God will heal. Dr. Tebi Ignatius, CEO of the foundation and wife in appreciation, said the new structure to go operational officially in the days ahead. Expectation is to ensure that every person in need regards health should not stay at home.
We want to ensure that every person who is in need regards your health, because when you're healthy, it means every other thing to come to you. Don't stay back at home saying that, oh, I don't have money. Come back to Abbey Specialist Medical Foundation. With the special grace of God, as this place has been dedicated, we want to contribute to making you healthy so that you will remain worthy.
With the vision, getting satisfaction with what you do, the heart to serve humanity, continue to make people healthy and worthy. 7-on-7, 24-on-24, open this time around to have other specialists come to work with the clinic.
Nora Kakebi takes us through a news-making event in the African continent.
According to the independent body, Africa Regional Certification Commission, Africa is to be declared free from wild polio. More than 95% of Africa's population has now been immunized, and this was one of the conditions that the Africa Regional Certification Commission set before declaring the continent free from wild polio. Polio usually affects children under 5, sometimes leading to irreversible paralysis. Polio equally has no cure, but the vaccine protects children for life. It is worth noting that Nigeria is the last country in Africa to have reported a case of polio. It has taken decades to achieve eradication and overcome suspicion around the vaccine. According to the World Health Organization, it is important for countries to remain vigilant and avoid complacency until there is global eradication. Meanwhile, in Mali, the overthrow of a democratically elected government in the country last week has left ECOWAS and the African Union scrambling to return the country to constitutional rule, and talks to that effect have so far borne little fruit. On Monday, Mali's military junta and regional mediator discussed the make-up goals of a transitional leadership rather than the possibility of reinstating the ousted president, but the meeting reportedly ended with no solid agreement. The junta is in no hurry to hand over power, as they want to hold on to power for at least 3 years before the country returns to civilian rule. But this demand has left ECOWAS in a big puzzle and puts the political situation in the Sahel at risk. South Africa has recorded 1,677 new cases of coronavirus, the lowest number in new daily infections since June. According to health experts, the number of cases in the country have declined from a peak of about 15,000 daily infections. Though they have warned the current decline in new infections is not an indication that the worst is over. Experts say data shows a continued downward trend and that there's currently no sign of a wave of infections as lockdown restrictions have been eased. Some 100 deaths were recorded on Monday, bringing the total to more than 13,000, while the recovery rate has increased to more than 800%.
At least 13 persons have been recorded dead in a stampede in Peru. Sources say the victims were trying to escape as police officers raided a nightclub to apprehend individuals breaking COVID-19 measures. Details in the following report.
We begin in Peru, where 13 people were killed after trying to escape from police attack in a nightclub breaking COVID-19 checks on the 23rd of August 2020 in Peru. Some sources say tear gas was shot at them, but other sources claim the police did not use any type of weapon or tear gas during the operation. According to President Vizcarra of Peru, a night curfew had been put in place since March and a ban on large gathering was imposed earlier this month of August, since such gatherings were posing a serious threat to public health. 6 people were also injured, including 2 police officers, and 15 people out of 23 were tested positive of the COVID-19 virus.
We now move to the Philippines, where at least 14 people have been killed and several others wounded after 2 explosions took place. One said to have been carried out by a female suicide bomber struck the southern Philippines town of Jolo on Monday the 24th of August 2020. According to Lieutenant Colonel Ronaldo Mateo, an army spokesman, a female suicide bomber presented herself when a soldier stopped her from entering the cordoned area. Then she moved near a military truck where the explosive went off. Record states in total that 8 members of the security force, 6 civilians and the bomber were killed in the bombing, leaving 27 security personnel and 48 civilians wounded. We are in India, where more than 60 people have been successfully pulled out from a 5-story building near India's financial capital, Mumbai, on Monday the 24th of August 2020, which housed roughly 200 residents. The building was comprised of 47 flats, which all collapsed. The cause of the accident has not yet been unraveled. The Chief Minister Maharashtra stated that building collapses are common in India because of shoddy constructions, substandard materials, and disregard of regulations. As per record, 1 resident died and at least 30 were trapped.
Student journalist on internship, Lem Meklia, ending that report. Thanks for being a part of today's edition of Prime News on My Media Prime. Join us tomorrow at 6:30 Cameroon time for another edition of Prime News on My Media Prime. The news was produced by Ewane Eli Nolinga, coordinated by Lasha Kingsley. My name is Genda Pelgrim Blanche King. Until we meet again tomorrow at 6:30, stay tuned to My Media Prime. Coming up next is Prime Hour. Enjoy this special edition of Prime Hour with Kim Leonard and his panelists as they talk about issues affecting Cameroon, Africa, and the world. Enjoy.